Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are on day 5 of our 9-day sourdough starter series, so we have made it to the midpoint. But if you're new to the channel here and you're breaking into the series in the middle, what I'm going to do, I'll put a iCard up here in the corner, and you can follow that back to the sourdough playlist and start from the beginning. But for the rest of us, we're going to press on. We've got a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to get off here and we'll get out there in the kitchen, see if we can find something to get into. Alrighty guys, we've got our starters out of the oven, and the first thing we're going to do is take a good long look at them, and right off the bat you're going to notice that they didn't rise. But that brings us to a couple of problems that I need to tell you about yesterday's video. Yesterday we should have stayed at 100 grams of starter, 100 grams of flour, and 100 grams of water in the quart jars before stepping up like we did. So I made a mistake, and the yeast that's in our starters grows proportionally to the amount of feed that you put in there. So I don't think our starter was quite mature enough to handle the overfeeding. But if you look real close, especially over in here, you'll see we do still have small bubbles. So I don't think we've killed it. But today was the day that we should have moved up to 150 grams of starter, 150 grams of flour, and 150 grams of water, and moved up to these larger jars. So that is what we are just going to repeat it today. So that's how we're going to handle that part of it. The second part of it is you're probably going to notice that it didn't rise. It didn't rise, and that's a natural thing. When you first start your starter, you've got a lot of different kinds of yeast, and 3-4 days into your starter's starting the fermentation process. So now we're going to be looking for different kinds of smells. We will know that that fermentation is starting up. It'll start to begin to produce alcohol. That'll kill off some of the initial yeast, the weaker yeast that started with it, that showed that big flurry of growth. And now we're going to get down to the natural wild yeast that can withstand it as the fermentation process matures past alcohol and into just leaving us more of a not quite so acidic of an environment. So guys, it's kind of like when you first put grapes in to make wine. They're going to ferment, they're going to smell terrible, then they're going to convert to wine. But if you leave the grapes in there long enough, they'll turn to vinegar. So guys, we're just trying to get to that point where we get past the fermentation, past the alcohol, and we just move on. It'll always be fermenting, but slower, because we'll continue to feed it. So we keep taking fermented stuff out and putting non-fermented stuff back in, so it keeps it in hold for your starter. But we're in that stage now. It's killed off a lot of the weaker yeast. We still have some bubble activity. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on and feed these guys, and we're just going to pretend like there's no problem at all. Alrighty guys, we've got them opened up now, so we're going to continue the inspection. What we're still looking for are any signs of bad smells or mold or anything else that just shouldn't be there. But the starters are still looking good. Let's see if I can show you that. Still looking good down there, no signs of mold or anything. You can see a little bit more bubble activity on the surface. They haven't produced any kind of hooch. So that's a dark liquid that'll sit on top of them. Usually not a, they'll do it, but it's usually not a sign that everything's going great. But everything looks fine on the inspection. So we'll continue on, and we're going to measure things out and get these guys in some new jars, and we'll just take you along with us. Alrighty guys, we got the starter all measured out in the jars, and as you can see, yes, your eyes didn't deceive you. I did use hot dog tongs to reach down there and remove a little extra. So you guys just do what it takes. But I hate pouring starter, you guys know that. But we're going to move on. We're going to go through, we're going to be feeding 150 grams of flour and 150 grams of lukewarm water. And I think that worked out well yesterday to just put it in time lapse so you guys can see it. So that's what we're going to do again today. I'll throw them up here one at a time on the scale. We'll get the flour in them, then we'll get the water in them, and then I'll bring you guys back and I'll tell you what we do from there. Alright guys, we've got everything measured and weighed and stirred up in the jars. So we'll go ahead and mark the levels of the starter, and we're going to get their lids back on them, and we're going to get them back in the oven. But my whole kitchen smells like stale beer. That tells me we're doing something right. Should see a little more activity tonight than we saw last night, as that yeast gets a better foothold. So guys, let me get these get their hats back on them, and I'll bring you right back. Alrighty guys, we got the tops back on the starters, and I thought I would show you something you might find amusing. You guys know about Floki. Now, he was a combination of all three starters, and we fed him and put him in the refrigerator after about 2 hours. You let them rise about halfway to their peak, then you put them in the refrigerator. They can stay there about a week before they need fed again. But you guys know that Floki is kind of a backup plan in case anything went wrong. And you know, I want to make sure that we're able to complete the series for you guys. And a lot of you guys thought it was funny we put Floki in the fridge. There's been some confusion about his name. They're all Viking Norse names, but Loki, just L-O-K-I, was a Norse god. Floki was a Viking, and he sailed to Iceland and settled Iceland. So his name is actually correct. They're all just Vikings. So Floki is at home in Iceland, and he'll be at home in the refrigerator. But when I got up from dinner last night, I came out and I checked the starters, and I saw no activity. And I want you to know that I am just like you guys. I panicked. I didn't know what for sure to do. I did some research, found out about the fermentation killing off the initial yeasts, things like that. But before I did my research, being who I am, and in full disclosure, I want you to know that the series will go on no matter what. So we started those yesterday. They've had their first feeding today. And if anything happens with the main ones, we'll just take a break for a couple days until these catch up to the other ones. But if the other ones show signs of life, I'm not out that much flour. But one way or another, guys, we are going to get this series done, and we are going to bake some sourdough. So hang in there. I'll be right back to talk to you. Alrighty guys, that's about going to wrap it up for day 5. If you were counting along and you came up with 7 starters, you're absolutely correct. But guys, it's not very much work once I've got everything broke out to go ahead and feed those and get them all ready. And I'll tell you this, after 7 starters and raising them all the way to this point, we are just now getting to the bottom of our first bag of flour. So I don't have that much invested in it. We have unlimited canning jars here. We're a homestead. We can most of our own food. So guys, it's really no bother, but I hope you rather just find it amusing. So we've got backup plans to our backup plans, but want to make sure there's a couple things happen. I want to show you waking the starter up out of that refrigerator. That's what Floki's all about. And I want to make sure that at the end of this series, we bake a loaf of sourdough bread. So one way or another, by hook or by crook, I'll just tell you what I'm doing as we go along. There's no need to hide it behind the scenes, have backup starters that I can slip in on you. We'll just have a fun time with it. One way or another, we'll get that bread baked. So guys, if you like the content here on the channel, we hope you'll subscribe. That really helps us out, and we could use the support. Down next to the subscribe button is a bell. If you'll ring that bell, that'll send you a notification whenever we release a new video. Guys, that's a great way to keep up with the channel and a great way to follow along with the series as well. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment or any questions you might have down below. YouTube keeps track of that stuff, and we appreciate the comments and thumbs up. They really help us. So guys, thanks for sticking around this long. We're glad you came and spent your time with us here at the homestead, but we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll catch you in the next one.